Hi, welcome. For those that don't know me, I am Nicole Potter, founder of Legacy Game Changers, and I want to thank you for joining me here today. Before we go anywhere, I want us to just pause for a moment. You made it here. And if you're here live or on the replay, I'm going to gently assume something. You're carrying a lot and you're tired, or else the title may not have drawn you here. You're not necessarily the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind of tired that it comes from holding, managing, adjusting, anticipating, keeping things steady, and holding it all together. But before we name anything, I want us to become present here. You don't have anything to prove here. Nothing to perform, nothing to get right. So I want you to just relax. I know that's not a word that we particularly like or make room for, but I want us to take a few moments here together. I want you to take a slow breath in and let it out slowly. Let your shoulders drop, stretch. Oh, I think I needed that one myself. You don't have to hold space here. You don't have to be the strong one here. God is steady, and you're allowed to soften. Today isn't about digging into your past. It isn't about labeling you or anyone else. And it isn't about diagnosing dynamics. It's about awareness, because awareness is where freedom begins. And you may notice that today my hair is in a messy bun. I don't even really have on makeup or jewelry, or I have on my big comfy sweater. Why? Because I just wanted to show up and be here without also needing to perform and carry it all together. And that has been very hard for me, to not make sure that I am having it all together for use. But I'm just as real as anyone else. There's a certain kind of woman who walks into a room and scans it. You may not even realize that you're doing it, but you can feel the atmosphere. You can feel if something has shifted, if something's off, if someone's upset, if someone's withdrawing, if someone's overwhelmed. You can pick up on tone changes, micro expressions, energy shifts. You notice what wasn't said. And whether you realize it or not, most of the time you adjust before anyone asks you to. You soften your voice or tone. You explain more. You take responsibility first. And we've been taught that that's maturity. We can think that it's wisdom. But the truth is, we're not just empaths as it has been described. We are not weak. We're not too much. We're not oversensitive. We're skilled. And I want that to settle for a moment, because we have been taught that these things are maybe a nuisance. It makes us weak, and And I do have to say, if you are overly sensitive and you pick up on everyone's needs and you haven't learned to filter that with God, we can. And I used to be off balance a little. But it truly is a skill. But this skill was developed somewhere. You learn to scan. You learn to anticipate. You learned to stay aware. Not because you were dramatic or that you wanted to be on guard all the time. It wasn't because you were too sensitive, but because awareness became wisdom, and wisdom became survival. It became a safety. It's a term that gets used a lot today without explanation of what that really means or what that looks like. But it's caused us to live in survival mode, always scanning, always on alert, always bracing, always expecting. And your nervous system has never been able to shut off. And that is why you're exhausted. Somewhere along the way, being perceptive kept you safe. It's the same way, even now as I'm leaving this, I have this thought. Apparently doesn't want me to say it. It's gone already. But it has kept you safe. So where does this start? And this is where it can get subtle. The same skill that makes you discerning can slowly turn into over-responsibility. At first, it can feel like connection. Someone opens up to you quickly. They say they feel safe with you. They say they've never felt this understood. And because you were steady under pressure, you can hold the space. But slowly, you're the one that's adjusting. You're the one who's explaining more, justifying. You're the one giving benefit of the doubt. You're the one searching for context, wondering if what you're sensing or feeling is real. Maybe I misunderstood. You try to be fair, you try to be mature, you try to keep peace. And without realizing it, you started carrying the emotional weight of the dynamic. Women who are self-reflective or who are living in survival mode often question themselves before they question others. So instead of asking, why is this happening? You might ask, am I being too much? Am I overreacting? Did I communicate that wrong? And because you can hold the tension, you do. Because you're strong enough, you can carry it. Because you're capable, because you have been trained and learned to do so, you adjust. But capability does not mean responsibility. Perception without boundaries becomes over-responsibility. And discernment without limits becomes over-accommodation. And that's where holding it together becomes heavy. So, how can we shift that? Holding it together protected you once. But it may not be required in the same way now. But your nervous system doesn't know that. Your nervous system's job is to protect you. So if anything seems out of familiarity, it's going to detect it as unsafe. So this skill has kept you safe, but it doesn't have to run your life now and forever. You are allowed to ask and connect to yourself with God in these, with, why am I adjusting first? Now, what I'm not saying is we now decide, you know what, I'm doing all of this and we're just going to switch gears and just decide to say and do whatever we want to do. That's not, of course, what I'm saying. But we want to take our actions and our ways of being and filter them through the lens and heart of God. So why am I adjusting first? Is this something that I need to do here? Why am I explaining? Do I need to? Why am I taking responsibility for this? Why does peace only come when I'm flexible? Some of what you're carrying isn't current. It isn't based on today. It's old wiring. It's old training, old pattern, old survival, old biblical teaching. And today isn't about confronting anyone. It's about noticing yourself, because when awareness turns outward instead of inward, something shifts. We can't control what goes on around us. And control isn't even really a word that I like to use. The only one we can manage is ourselves, because we don't know what anyone else is doing, thinking, or feeling, and we think we do, and we interpret it, and a lot of the times we may or may not be right. But we want to start asking God to help filter us on our behavior, and that isn't in a condemning, shaming, beat yourself up kind of way. That's not what I'm talking about. But when you feel a little check in your spirit and you're like, oh, or you feel that, oh, I have to do this again. Or when you brace yourself when you go to have a conversation with certain people. We all know that that happens. We can ask God, like, why? What's going on here? When we go inward, something shifts. You stop confusing intensity with depth. You stop confusing being needed with being valued. You stop confusing access with intimacy. Because you're not broken. You're skilled. But skill anchored in truth, and the truth of God, partnered with boundaries, becomes your new freedom. So now, how do we bring this into our body? How do we see where and how our body is being affected by how much we're carrying? I've spent a lot of time with God over the last 5 years. We've all prayed. We've all did the warfare. We've all renounced the lies. We've all did inner healing. We've done forgiveness, but our bodies are still feeling, well, let's just say not redeemed. And that's because the stuff that we haven't been able to release has got trapped inside of our body and our cells. So what I want us to do today, if you're open to it, is I want you to place one hand on your chest, one on your stomach. I suggest this because, our chest is where our heart is, and many people say, our spirit is within us. So that is why I choose those things, okay? But wherever you're comfortable, I just want you to take a slow breath in. And I want you to exhale slowly. No surprise, we've done this before. I want us to slow down for a moment. Slowing down is okay. But I want you, as you're inhaling and exhaling, I want you to bring your attention to your body. I want you to notice where you tighten when you think about having to hold all things together. Is it in your shoulders, your neck, your jaw? Maybe it's your stomach. Maybe it's your throat. Maybe it's your lower back. It could be your knees. And I just want you to say quietly, you can say this inside your head, you could whisper it out loud, because I don't know what's in your surroundings and what you're comfortable with. I just want you to say, I don't have to hold everything together right now. And I know just as I went to say this to you, my body relaxed because I'm on this side of the screen. And in some capacity, my body feels like it needs to hold it together because I'm here before you. But that's not true. I could be just as relaxed. I don't have to hold everything together right now. And we just get to take another breath. Let your shoulders drop 1 inch. Let your tongue drop to the bottom of your mouth. Unclench your jaw. Roll your neck. Stretch your shoulders and your back. If your body resists, that's okay. We're not forcing anything here. We're just trying to introduce some safety. While you're taking notice and while you're breathing in and exhaling, because as you're breathing in the rest, the peace, the joy, the love of God, wherever it's needed, and you're exhaling the stress, the noise, the to-do list, the exhaustion. One more time. And as you do, I want you to say, it's safe to release a little. I'm safe. And God is with me. And I want you to take one more steady breath. And now I want you to imagine one thing. Just one thing that you've been carrying relationally. Not the story that goes along with it, just the weight. I want you to hold whatever it is. If you want to prophetically remove it from whatever areas of your body felt stiff and tight or injured, do that. But hold it in your hands and feel the weight. And I want you to picture placing that in God's hands. Or if you're not ready to give it up, you can just maybe hold it with Him. And it's not because you don't care about this situation. And it's not because you're avoiding the situation. But it's because you are no longer responsible for holding what isn't yours to hold. We were never meant to carry this weight. We forget that we can give these things to God. It's been one of the hardest things for me to do. I lived in survival mode my whole life, and I didn't even know it. I was constantly prepared, had backup plan after backup plan. I needed to know this. Because my nervous system trained me to have to know everything in order to know that I am safe. And when we can trade that to know that God is with us, He has walked this path before us, He is walking with us, He is our rear guard, that we can place it in His hands. I'm feeling led to tell a story here. About 1.5 years ago, Well, it would have been January of last year. I think actually, January 2nd, because I believe that's the day that this happened. My mom used to live in a nursing facility. It was a temporary place for me to be able to put her until I could find her a place and get her the care that she needed. She didn't really need to be in the nursing home. It was just kind of a holding pattern, right? And I remember my mother-in-law. I think this is going to be a twofold story. My mother-in-law had just come out of the hospital from having a triple bypass. And I did not want her staying alone. My husband was home at night. My children were old enough to be home during the day by themselves. So I stayed so that she wasn't by herself the first evening she came home. But my mom had just told me that while in the nursing home, there was a staff member that had humiliated her in the middle of the lunchroom. So if any of you who are a mother, a daughter, have multiple things going on at once that you are concerned about, I remember laying there formulating a plan. I'm just going to be real. I was formulating a plan of how I could go in and take care of this situation. And to be honest, it wasn't really a redeemed story because I was tired and I was exhausted and I was being a mama bear, but a daughter bear in this case. And I knew when the woman was going to be in at the most public place. And I was going to go in and very matter-of-factly put her in her place without causing a scene and where I wouldn't have looked like a complete jerk. And to many, I would have looked justified. And I had this thought right in the middle of the plan of, God, this isn't going to glorify you. This isn't mine to handle. I give it to you and I trust that you're going to take care of it. And honestly, I rolled over and went to sleep. My mother-in-law was fine. And I woke up in the morning and I called my mom, as I always do. And I barely got hello out of my mouth. And she went, "You're never going to guess what happened." So this was at about 1 o'clock in the morning for me when I was going to sleep. This was about 9 a.m. the next morning. And I went, "What?" She said, "You know that nurse I told you about?" I went, "Yeah." She said, "She's under investigation. The psychologist of the facility came in today, wanted to get my story, said she's under investigation." I went, that's interesting. God did it. He didn't need my help. Many of us think that he does. And he's not mad at us for it. He understands why we're living that way. But the second fold part of this story is sometimes we face things in our life that seem not okay. Let's be real. My mom being humiliated in the middle of the lunchroom was not okay, especially for my mom. Okay, she's 70 years old, being humiliated. And we found out shortly thereafter that this nurse was a relief nurse, which means she was in every one of the 5 wards of this establishment. And if many of you know, most people who are living in nursing homes need to be there because they are in some physical or don't have physical capacity, mental capacity. There is reasons why they're in these assisted living homes. My mom, who is with full faculties and full capabilities, who was humiliated in the middle of the lunchroom, had the ability to advocate for herself. And because of that, that woman was removed from that facility, and all 5 wards who may have been under the care of that woman was no longer going to be abused or whatever it was this woman was doing to people. So that was the second one. I'm not sure exactly why he had me explain all of that into this part. I hope that it was for somebody. But where it is, where I want to come back to is I want you to notice any shifts. Okay, now let's get back to paying attention to our body. When your body feels even slightly safer, your heart becomes more open. And when your heart softens, it becomes easier to trust. Not just God, but yourself. And it's not because everything is fixed, but because you're no longer bracing. The situations that I have faced in the last year, I've only been able to stay in a place of rest and have been able to start to release from my body as God has shown, because He has shown me how to come out of that mode. I remember Him saying to me, Nicole, you're healed, but you're not free. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And He had me start paying attention. As much as I was resting and trusting, and because, as a parent, as a daughter who was in the sandwich generation of where you're taking care of both generations, things come up all the time that aren't part of your plan. And as much as I was going with the flow, I was still rushing. I was brushing my teeth. I was emptying that dishwasher in a rush. And the Lord just started talking to me to slow down and to place my hand on my chest and say, I'm safe. God is with me. I started to retrain my nervous system that going slower, doing less, being quieter was safe. I didn't have to know everything. I started things with, I don't need to know how this is going to end. I just need to know what to do today. So instead of pushing forward, we can just gently place what we notice into God's hands. Like I did with the woman at the nursing home. Not dramatically. I said, Lord, this is yours. This won't glorify you. I didn't do it out of performance. The stress and pressure that I used to put on myself in order to create the episodes when I was on the TV network, the weekly episodes here to try and build and create, oh my word, caused so much stress and pressure that God never asked me to carry. He's just asked me to steward it with Him as He shows me day by day. Just wants us to do small, consistent things. I feel like that's it for today. So I want to close us in prayer. Father, You saw us when we learned to hold it all together. You've seen the rooms that we've been in. You saw the pressure that we've put ourselves under. You saw the moments we decided to be strong. Thank You for the strength that carried us through. But we don't want to carry what's not ours anymore. Teach us the difference between discernment and over-responsibility, between love and over-accommodation, between wisdom and weight. Show us what is ours and what we can place back into Your hands. I ask You to retrain our bodies and our nervous systems to know that they are safe with You and with ourselves, that we are going to start to show up for ourselves. We release a little right now. Not everything, even just a little. And we invite You in. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. If you felt even a small nudge tonight, like, I think I might be carrying more than I realized, and you felt even a little bit, 1% weight lifted. This is why God has asked me to host the rest encounters. This is why they exist. The next one is Thursday at 8 p.m. We're not teaching. We're not performing. We're not discussing. We're simply coming into a quiet space with God. Together, but individually. And we don't even have our cameras or our microphones on, so you don't even need to do your hair. You don't need to get out of PJs if that's what you want to do. It's just to go deeper into the release, to lay down what you've been holding, and to receive what He wants to give you in its place, and to anchor in His love and His truth. You don't have to show up all polished. You don't have to have any words. You just come. You get comfortable. It's 30 minutes, in and out. We rest. And if that feels right for you, then I want you to comment rest in the comments, or you can send me a private message and I'll send you the link. If not, that's okay too. I trust that God will show you what you need. I'm just grateful that you're here with me now, and that I will see you next week. So I leave you in His most loving and capable hands and heart. Until the next time.